Be me, Helen, 34, married to Michael for 6 years. Finally reaching my breaking point with the patriarchal expectations in my marriage. Michael has been getting too comfortable with casual physical contact lately. Random hugs from behind while I'm cooking, holding my hand without asking, expecting goodnight kisses. It's like he thinks my body belongs to him just because we're married. Decide it's time to establish some serious boundaries and educate him about consent. Spend 3 days researching feminist theory on bodily autonomy. Draft a comprehensive list of new household rules. Most important one, 30-day mandatory waiting period for any physical contact. No kissing, no hugging, no hand-holding, definitely no intimacy. He needs to learn that my body is mine and mine alone. Physical affection should be a privilege, not an expectation. Michael comes home from work Thursday evening. I'm sitting at the kitchen table with my printed list. Michael, we need to talk. I've been doing some important reflection on our relationship dynamics. He sets down his keys, looks concerned. Is everything okay, Helen? Well, that depends on your willingness to respect my autonomy and grow as a person. Slide the paper across the table. I've established some new boundaries for our marriage. These are non-negotiable. Watch him read through the list, his face getting more confused. A 30-day waiting period for physical contact? Helen, what does this mean exactly? It means exactly what it says. No touching, no kissing, no hugs, no intimacy for 30 days minimum. But why? Did I do something wrong? Roll my eyes at his typical male response. This isn't about punishment, Michael. It's about deconstructing the patriarchal assumptions in our relationship. You've been treating my body like it's community property. Every casual touch reinforces toxic masculine ownership patterns. I need you to unlearn these behaviors and approach physical affection with intentionality and explicit consent. Michael stares at the paper for a long time. So no hugging? At all? Correct. Physical contact has become too normalized and casual between us. It needs to be earned. What about holding hands? Did you not read the list? No physical contact means no physical contact. For 30 days? Minimum 30 days. We'll reassess after that period based on your growth and understanding. Michael sets the paper down carefully. Okay, Helen. If these are your boundaries, I'll respect them. Finally, some maturity from him. Good. I'm glad you understand this is about creating a healthier dynamic for both of us. And just to be clear, this starts now. Yes, immediately. I trust you'll honor my clearly stated boundaries. Over the next few days, Michael is weirdly compliant. No attempts to hug me goodbye in the mornings, no casual touches when we pass in the hallway, sleeps on his side of the bed without even accidentally brushing against me. Honestly impressed that he's taking this so seriously. Maybe there's hope for him to become a better feminist ally. By day 10, starting to feel proud of our progress. Michael has been completely respectful of my boundaries. No complaints, no attempts to negotiate, no passive-aggressive comments. He's even started doing more household chores without being asked. This is exactly the kind of growth I was hoping for. Clearly my approach is working. Day 15. Notice Michael has been staying late at work more often. When I ask about it, he just says he's been busy with a new project. Fine by me. Gives me more time for self-care and reading. Currently working through a fascinating book about decolonizing intimate relationships, taking lots of notes to share with Michael when our waiting period ends. Day 20. Michael seems distant during dinner. Not in a sulky way, just quiet. Ask him how he's processing this experience so far. I'm learning a lot about boundaries and respect, he says. That's wonderful. I knew you had the capacity for growth if you just applied yourself. What specific insights have resonated most with you? I'm understanding more about what you need to feel secure and autonomous. Day 25. Getting excited about our reassessment conversation. Plan to extend the waiting period another 2 weeks to really cement the changes. Maybe implement a formal consent protocol for all future physical contact. This could revolutionize our entire relationship dynamic. Michael is going to be so grateful for this transformation. Day 30. Wake up ready for our big discussion. Michael is already dressed for work, which is unusual. He's putting papers into a manila envelope. What's that? I ask. Legal documents. I wanted to give these to you in person before I left. Left for where? You didn't mention a business trip? Michael hands me the envelope. My hands shake as I open it. Divorce papers. My brain literally cannot process what I'm seeing. What? What is this, Michael? I'm filing for divorce, Helen. I'll be staying at my brother's place. But why? You've been respecting my boundaries perfectly. You're absolutely right. I have been respecting your boundaries. I learned a lot about what you need, and I realized I can't provide it. You need someone who finds your rules reasonable and sustainable. That's not me. I need someone who actually wants physical affection with their partner. That's not you. Feel like the room is spinning. But Michael, this was about growth, about becoming better partners. Helen, you banned all physical contact for a month, including holding hands. You treated every casual touch like an assault on your personhood. That's not the kind of marriage I want to be in. But I was teaching you about consent. You were teaching me that you find my touch so repulsive you'd rather have none at all. That's not what this was about. Then what was it about, Helen? Because from where I'm standing, you got exactly what you asked for. Michael picks up a small suitcase I hadn't noticed. I've respected every single boundary you set. I never argued or tried to change your mind. I gave you the space you needed to feel autonomous and secure. And in that space, I realized we want fundamentally different things. Start crying, which I hate doing in front of him. You can't just leave. We're married. This is supposed to be about working through problems together. Helen, you unilaterally decided we couldn't touch each other for a month. You made that decision without any input from me about what I might need. That's not working through problems together. Follow him to the door, papers clutched in my shaking hands. Michael, please, I was trying to improve our relationship. I know you believe that, but I can't live with someone who sees my affection as oppression. I respected your boundaries completely. Now I need you to respect mine. My boundary is that I don't want to be married to someone who finds me toxic for wanting to hold their hand. He's already in his car. I'm standing in the doorway in my pajamas, sobbing. Neighbors are definitely watching, but I don't care. This cannot be happening. I did everything right. I set healthy boundaries. I communicated clearly. I gave him the opportunity to grow. Spend the next 3 hours calling my sister Emma repeatedly. She finally answers around noon. Emma, Michael left me. He filed for divorce. Oh my God, Helen, what happened? Nothing happened. That's the problem. I set some reasonable boundaries and he couldn't handle it. What kind of boundaries? Just physical contact boundaries. Nothing extreme. What does that mean exactly? I asked for a 30-day waiting period on physical affection so we could reassess our relationship dynamics. You banned touching for a month? I didn't ban anything. I established healthy boundaries. Emma is quiet for a long time. Helen, did you discuss this with him beforehand? Why would I need to discuss my own boundaries? They're my boundaries. But you're married. Don't you think he might have feelings about not being able to hug his wife? That's exactly the problem, Emma. He feels entitled to my body. Or maybe he just loves you and expresses it physically? Physical affection under patriarchal structures is inherently coercive. Helen, did you actually want him to touch you or not? That's not the point. The point is that it should be on my terms. But it sounds like your terms were never. Dash. Hang up on Emma because she's clearly not getting it. Call my friend Jessica instead. Explain the whole situation to her. So, wait, Jessica says. You told him no touching for a month. He respected that completely and then left? Yes. He couldn't handle me having boundaries. But didn't he handle it exactly how you asked him to? He was supposed to learn and grow, not just comply and then abandon me. Helen, what did you think was going to happen? I thought he would realize how his casual touching was problematic and we'd develop a better system. A system where he never touches you? A system where he asks permission and treats physical contact as the privilege it is. Jessica sighs. How often were you planning to say yes to these permission requests? That's not the point. The point is asking. But Helen, if you never say yes, what's the difference between asking and not asking? The difference is respect for my autonomy. Call 3 more friends and get variations of the same response. Nobody understands what I was trying to accomplish. They all act like Michael leaving was somehow inevitable, like I'm the unreasonable one for having standards, starting to feel like I'm surrounded by people who don't understand basic feminist principles. Spend the evening researching divorce attorneys, not because I want a divorce, but because I need to understand my options. Maybe I can contest this somehow, prove that Michael abandoned the marriage without attempting proper communication, show that he violated his commitment to work through problems together. But then I remember he did work through the problem. He worked through it by respecting my boundary and removing himself from the situation, which is actually exactly what he should have done if he couldn't accept my needs. Except I didn't want him to leave. I wanted him to stay and become better, start crying again. This is so unfair. I communicated clearly, I set appropriate boundaries, I gave him time to adjust. How is it my fault that he chose to leave instead of growing as a person? Maybe this just proves I was right about men not being able to handle women with self-respect. Day 32, Michael comes by to get more of his things. I've prepared a whole speech about how we can work through this, how my boundaries were reasonable and his reaction was extreme, how couples therapy could help him understand why physical autonomy matters. Michael, I've been thinking, and I realize we should probably talk about this more before making any permanent decisions. Helen, I've thought about it a lot too. I'm confident this is the right choice. But you're not even trying to understand my perspective. I understand it perfectly. You needed space from physical contact. I gave you that space. That's not what I meant, and you know it. What did you mean then? I meant that you needed to approach physical affection more mindfully. By not doing it at all for a month? By learning to see it as a privilege instead of an expectation. Helen, I never thought touching my wife was an expectation. I thought it was part of being married. That's exactly the toxic thinking I was trying to address. Maybe it is toxic. Maybe I am toxic. Either way, we're not compatible. You're not toxic, Michael. You just needed to unlearn some problematic patterns. I don't want to unlearn wanting to hold hands with my wife, Helen. Watch him pack up his books. We bought most of them together. He's not taking any of the relationship or marriage advice books. Guess he thinks those don't apply anymore. What am I supposed to tell people about why you left? Tell them whatever you want. Tell them I couldn't respect your boundaries. But you did respect them. Exactly. I respected them by leaving. That's not respecting them. That's giving up. Helen, you told me that casual physical affection was harmful to you. You said my touch reinforced patriarchal ownership patterns. You banned holding hands for a month. What was I supposed to conclude except that you don't want me to touch you? He's right, but he's also wrong somehow. I did say those things, but I didn't mean he should just leave. I meant he should learn to do it better. I wanted you to become more conscious about it, not stop entirely forever. But you did ask me to stop entirely. For a month? Which I did. That was just a reset period. A reset to what, though? What would have changed after the month? You would have learned to ask permission and be more mindful. And how often would you have said yes to those requests? That would depend on the situation. Helen, in 6 years of marriage, can you think of a single time you enthusiastically wanted me to touch you? The question hits like a punch to the stomach, because I can't think of an answer. There must be examples, but my mind is blank. That's not fair. Physical affection isn't about enthusiasm. It's about connection. For me, it is about enthusiasm. I want to touch someone who wants me to touch them. I do want you to touch me. Just appropriately. With consent. Helen, you asked me to stop touching you entirely. He's finished packing and heading for the door. Michael, please, can't we at least try therapy? You can go to therapy. I think it would be really good for you. What's that supposed to mean? It means I think you'd benefit from talking to someone about what you actually want from a relationship. I know what I want. I want respect and consideration and mindful communication. Okay. I hope you find someone who can give you that in a way that works for both of you. You could be that person if you just tried. Helen, I did try. I respected every boundary you set. But I can't be in a marriage where wanting to hug my wife makes me a bad person. He leaves, and I'm alone with the divorce papers. Spend the next week alternating between rage and despair. Keep thinking about what he said about enthusiasm. Was he right? Did I never want him to touch me? That can't be true. I must have wanted it sometimes. I just needed it to be on my terms. Call a therapist, Dr. Anderson, and schedule an appointment. Not because Michael was right about needing therapy, but because I need professional validation that my boundaries were reasonable. Someone with actual training will understand what I was trying to accomplish. First session. So Helen, tell me about what brings you here today. My husband left me because I set healthy boundaries, and I'm trying to process how someone can claim to love you and then abandon you for having self-respect. Dr. Anderson nods and takes notes. What kind of boundaries did you set? Explain the whole 30-day waiting period thing, how I researched feminist theory and created a comprehensive plan, how Michael seemed to be making progress at first, how he suddenly gave up and filed for divorce instead of growing as a person. So if I understand correctly, You asked for no physical contact for 30 days. He complied completely, and then he left? Right. He couldn't handle me having autonomy over my own body. How do you think he should have handled your request? He should have used the time to reflect on his assumptions and develop better habits around consent. And after the 30 days, what did you envision happening? We would have discussions about establishing ongoing protocols for physical affection. What would those protocols look like? He would ask permission before any physical contact and accept my answer without argument. And how often do you think you would have said yes to those requests? Same question Michael asked. Why does everyone keep asking this? That would depend on my comfort level and emotional state. Can you give me an example of when you might have said yes? Try to think of a specific scenario. Well, if I was feeling particularly connected to him and he approached it respectfully, Helen, in your marriage, how did you typically respond to Michael's physical affection? What do you mean? When he would hug you or hold your hand, how did that feel for you? Long pause because I'm trying to remember feeling anything positive. Sometimes it felt presumptuous, like he was taking liberties. But did it ever feel good? Did you ever enjoy it? Another long pause. I think I was usually focused on the problematic aspects of it. So you generally didn't enjoy physical affection with your husband? It's not about enjoyment, it's about the principle. But Helen, physical affection in marriage is typically about expressing love and connection. If you didn't enjoy it, what purpose was it serving for you? Feel like Dr. Anderson is taking Michael's side. Are you saying I should have just accepted unwanted touching to make him happy? I'm asking whether it was actually unwanted or whether you convinced yourself it should be unwanted. Those are the same thing. Are they though? Session ends with homework. Think about what I actually want from physical intimacy, not what I think I should want based on feminist theory, what I personally, individually want. This seems like a trap, but I agree to try. Spend 3 days trying to do the homework. Keep getting distracted by anger at Michael for giving up so easily. He could have fought harder for our marriage. He could have tried to understand what I was really asking for. Instead, he just left. Like 6 years meant nothing to him. But then I remember his face when he was packing. He didn't look angry or spiteful. He looked sad. Really, genuinely sad. Like this was hurting him too, but he thought it was necessary. Start thinking about what Dr. Anderson asked. Did I ever actually enjoy Michael touching me? There must have been times. Early in our relationship, maybe? Before I became more educated about relationship dynamics and power structures. Before I learned to analyze every interaction through a feminist lens. Realize I can't remember the last time I hugged Michael without simultaneously thinking about consent and autonomy. Can't remember the last time I held his hand without wondering if I was reinforcing traditional gender roles. Can't remember the last time I kissed him without a voice in my head, cataloging all the ways physical affection gets weaponized under patriarchy. Maybe that's normal though. Maybe being conscious of power dynamics is just part of being an evolved person. Maybe Michael left because he couldn't handle being with someone who actually understood how relationships work. Maybe this whole thing just proves that most men aren't ready for truly egalitarian partnerships. Second therapy session. Dr. Anderson asks about the homework. I realize that I've become very good at analyzing physical affection from a political perspective. But how did it feel, just as a physical and emotional experience? I think I trained myself not to focus on feelings because feelings can be manipulated by patriarchal conditioning. Helen, do you think it's possible that in trying to protect yourself from manipulation, you also protected yourself from genuine connection? Genuine connection doesn't require physical contact. No, but it doesn't preclude it either. Did you ever tell Michael that you enjoyed his touch? Try to remember ever saying anything positive about physical affection. Draw a complete blank. I don't think I focused on that aspect of it. What did you focus on? Whether it was appropriate, whether it was consensual, whether it respected my boundaries. But never whether it felt good or brought you joy. Joy isn't the point of physical affection in a marriage. What is the point then? Long pause because I've never really thought about it. Connection, intimacy, bonding. And how do you know if those things are happening? Through communication and respect and through feeling, Helen. You know you're connected to someone because it feels good to be close to them. Starting to feel attacked. Are you saying my approach was wrong? I'm saying your approach might have prevented you from experiencing the very things you wanted physical affection to create. So, I should have just ignored the problematic aspects? maybe you could have acknowledged them without letting them completely override your actual experience. Third session. Dr. Anderson wants to talk about what I want moving forward. Do you want to reconcile with Michael? I want him to understand that my boundaries were reasonable and necessary. But do you want to be married to him? I want to be married to a version of him that respects my autonomy. The version of him that respected your autonomy left, Helen. This stops me cold. He left because he couldn't handle being with someone who had standards. He left because he concluded that you didn't want physical affection from him, and he needed to be with someone who did. But I never said I didn't want it. You banned it for a month and talked about it as harmful and problematic, because the way he was doing it was harmful and problematic. Helen, what would non-harmful, non-problematic physical affection look like? Try to describe my ideal scenario. He would ask permission each time. He would accept no for an answer gracefully. He would approach it as a privilege I was granting, rather than something he was entitled to. And in this scenario, when would you say yes? When I felt comfortable and ready. When do you think you would feel comfortable and ready? Realize I have no idea, because I've never actually thought about when I want to be touched, only about when touch is inappropriate or problematic. I guess when it felt right. What would make it feel right? I don't know. I've never really thought about it that way. Dr. Anderson leans forward. Helen, I think you've spent so much energy protecting yourself from unwanted touch that you never figured out what wanted touch would look like. So this is my fault. It's not about fault, but Michael can't want physical affection for both of you. Fourth session. Breakthrough moment that I hate. I've been thinking about what you said, and I realize I might have overcorrected. What do you mean? I was so focused on making sure Michael couldn't take advantage of me that I never considered whether I actually wanted him to touch me. And what conclusion did you reach? Long pause, because this is hard to admit. I think I was scared that if I admitted I wanted it, that would make me weak or naive. Scared of seeming vulnerable? Scared of being the kind of woman who needs physical affection from a man. But everyone needs physical affection, Helen. It's a basic human need. Not everyone. Some people are fine without it. Are you fine without it? Think about the past month and a half since Michael left. Haven't touched another human being except handshakes. Feel completely isolated and disconnected. Cry myself to sleep most nights. No, I'm not fine without it. So when Michael would hug you or hold your hand, and you felt that need being met, what did you do with that feeling? I told myself it was internalized patriarchy. Instead of just enjoying it felt dangerous. Why? Because then I might start depending on it. Realize I've been talking for an hour about how terrified I was of needing Michael. How I constructed all these elaborate theories to avoid acknowledging that I actually liked being close to him. How I turned every moment of connection into a political analysis to avoid feeling vulnerable. Dr. Anderson, did I destroy my marriage because I was afraid of being happy? What do you think, Helen? Start crying and can't stop, because I think the answer is yes. Call Michael that evening. He answers, but sounds cautious. Hi, Helen. How are you doing? I've been going to therapy. That's good. I'm glad. Michael, I think I made a terrible mistake. Long pause. What kind of mistake? Try to explain what I've figured out. How I was scared of being vulnerable. How I turned physical affection into a political issue to avoid dealing with my own feelings. How I might have actually wanted all the things I told him were problematic. I think I was testing you, and I set up a test you couldn't pass. Helen, you weren't testing me. You were telling me what you needed. But what I said I needed wasn't actually what I needed. How was I supposed to know that? You weren't. That's the point. I didn't even know it myself. Another pause. Michael, do you think we could try again, now that I understand what was really happening? Helen, I appreciate you calling. I really do. And I'm glad therapy is helping. But I can't go back to wondering whether every time I want to touch you, I'm being oppressive. What if I promised that wouldn't happen again? How could you promise that? These are your beliefs, Helen. They're part of who you are. My beliefs were wrong. They weren't wrong. They were just not compatible with what I need in a marriage. So that's it? You're not even willing to try? I think we both deserve to be with people who want the same things we want. I do want the same things. I just didn't realize it. But even as I'm saying it, I know he's right. because I can already feel part of my brain starting to analyze this conversation, wondering if he's manipulating me by being kind but firm, wondering if I'm betraying feminist principles by admitting I was wrong, wondering if wanting him back makes me pathetic and dependent. We talk for another 10 minutes, but I know it's over. Michael has moved on, he's figured out who he is and what he wants. And what he wants is someone who actually enjoys being touched by him, not someone who has to convince themselves it's okay. Hang up and sit in my empty house. Still believe everything I did was theoretically correct. Still think 30-day waiting periods and explicit consent protocols make sense in the abstract. But I also understand now that I use those theories to avoid dealing with my own emotional reality. And that reality is that I wanted to be close to Michael and was terrified to admit it. 6 months later, divorce is finalized. Run into Michael at the grocery store with a woman named Caroline. She's laughing at something he said and holding his hand. He sees me and waves politely, introduces me as his ex-wife. No awkwardness or hostility. Caroline is nice, seems genuinely happy. Watch them walk away together, notice how easily they touch each other. Casual hand on the back, quick kiss, fingers intertwined while they examine vegetables. All the things I turned into political statements, they're just doing. Because they both want to. Because it makes them happy. Realize I'm crying in the produce section, not because I want Michael back, exactly, but because I finally understand what I lost, and how I lost it, and how completely I convinced myself I was doing the right thing while I was losing it. Still go to therapy, still working on figuring out what I actually want versus what I think I should want. Dr. Anderson says it might take years to untangle all the ways I've learned to intellectualize my emotional needs, but that it's worth doing if I want to have a real relationship someday. Sometimes wonder if there's a version of this story where I figured it out in time, where I could have said, Michael, I'm scared of needing you, but I do need you. Instead of Michael, your casual affection violates my bodily autonomy. But that would have required admitting I was afraid instead of angry, vulnerable instead of righteous, human instead of theoretical. Maybe someday I'll meet someone else, someone I can practice being honest with about what I actually want, instead of what I think wanting things means about my politics. Someone patient enough to help me learn the difference between boundaries and walls, between protecting myself and isolating myself. For now, though, I'm just trying to figure out how to touch another human being without a committee of feminist theorists in my head analyzing the power dynamics. Trying to remember that connection is supposed to feel good, that needing people doesn't make me weak, that enjoying affection doesn't make me a traitor to the cause. Still think Michael could have tried harder. Still think he gave up too easily. Still think 30 days wasn't that long to wait. But I also understand now that he gave me exactly what I asked for. Complete respect for my stated boundaries. And when those boundaries made a relationship impossible, he left. Which was actually the most respectful thing he could have done. The worst part isn't that he left. It's that even now, 6 months later, I can't honestly say I would have said yes if he'd started asking permission to touch me. Because I still don't really know how to want things. Only how to not want them. Only how to protect myself from wanting them. Maybe that's what I'm really working on in therapy. Learning how to say yes to things that might make me happy. Even if happiness feels dangerous. Even if needing people feels like weakness. Even if joy feels like giving up some essential part of myself. But that's a different story. This one ends with me alone in my perfectly autonomous house. With my boundaries respected and my theories vindicated. And my marriage destroyed, exactly like I asked for.